I like true crime, so I decided to make a true crime podcast where I cover true crime stories year by year.
And I hate true crime, so I decided to beef up my wife's true crime podcast by telling people what was on TV during each one of those murders, or who was winning that wrestling match during that awful rape.
The result is American Timelines, where we cover strange, fascinating happenings.
And sometimes silly stories, and even birthdays. Didn't you always wonder when Don Cheadle was born?
No.
Didn't you at least wonder what the #1 song was when Don Cheadle was born?
No.
Well, what did you want to know?
Just about murder. Sweet, sweet, grisly murder.
Well, sometimes you talk about UFOs or ghost stories too.
Yes, those are cool too.
And who hasn't wondered what episode of 227 was on during a haunting?
Everyone.
Download and subscribe to American Timelines by History for Jerks. You can hear it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts.
It's better than it sounds.
It really is.
American Timelines by History for Jerks, the greatest podcast ever.
Welcome to the Macabre Podcast Universe.
You're listening to, like my wife just said, the Macabre Podcast Universe. Now,
we cover film franchises.
You got that right.
And we exist to prove people wrong that say the sequels are never better than the originals.
That's true. That's why we're here. We've been emailing a lot of guests and stuff, and if you're an avid listener, you'll know that our last 2 episodes we had some amazing gets. And we'd highly encourage you to go back and listen to those. We had 2 stunt martial artists on our Ip Man 1 and Ip Man 2 episode, which was just unbelievable. Dream come true for me.
Me too.
Part of the reason why we started the podcast. We wanted to meet cool people in the industry. So
maybe like the movies more, and I already liked those 2 movies.
Yeah. But I did lose my train of thought that I was trying to say, but
well, today... Sorry, no guest.
Yeah.
No stunt aficionado or even expert.
Well, this is a good test for us. Did we learn from Ilram Choi and Amy Johnston? I think yes, because I was noticing some stuff in the action that I don't think I would have noticed if we didn't have them on the show. What about you?
Well, yes. However, I think this one is a huge step down from the other 2.
Okay.
So I don't think it's that hard to notice the things that we noticed.
Okay. Well, okay. So we are covering the Ip Man series.
We're on Ip Man 3.
We're on Ip Man 3. Before we dive all the way into it, do we have a name for this series? We didn't name the Cornetto trilogy, and we also didn't name this series. But I mean, maybe just the Wing Chun series.
That's the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah. Maybe, let us know, do we need to keep that bit alive, folks? I mean, I like the bit, but sometimes it doesn't come out too naturally. I don't know what the Cornetto trilogy would be, you know? I just don't know.
I feel like, but the funny thing about using that as an example, I feel like it's already a joke.
Right.
So...
Oh, and I did remember my previous train of thought.
Okay.
We've been emailing guests, and we've been getting some cool guests, and hopefully we'll have some other really cool ones coming up. But we've noticed that a lot of people have been like, "Oh, cool, you guys are married and you do a podcast." So, hey, if that gets us ahead in this game, oh man, we are as married as it gets.
I wonder how many people think, man, this guy's making his wife be on this podcast to talk about movies. Wrong. I like talking about them just as much as he does.
It's true.
I'm not as type 3 Enneagram as him. I don't make lists. I don't rank things.
Well, we do actually literally rank things in this.
Micah.
Yes, I know.
Anyone go on Micah's Letterboxd thing. I think he has a section of movies that have peaches in them. Or that could be a personal one. That's on Letterboxd?
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm just keeping track of... So, okay. You're coming at me hard right now. So I like to rank the movies of the year That is totally natural, and everyone does that. Literally everybody.
That's what it's for.
Huh?
Letterbox? You're talking about movies.
Yes, I rank my my movies of the year because I like to at the end of the year.
And if you want to hear how I like ranking things, most generally, listen to the Lord of the Rings. Probably the last episode where we're like, Jordan, what is your rank of the Lord of the Rings movies? Not Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And I am the person that says all of them. Yeah,
which is not fair. You can't do that. Because, like, for example, those were all 10 out of 10s, but I have my ranking of the Lord of the Rings movies. Same with Toy Story 4, the Toy Story movies. The Toy Story movies.
Well, that's easy.
Yeah. But, okay.
Some are easier than others.
So I have the rankings that I do of the years. And I did earlier this year, or last year, I was, like, going through and, like, ranking, like, previous years. And that was, like, a little too deep, because then you watch a movie from that year, and then it's a whole thing. Like, my brain can't comprehend it. Then I rank directors as well. So I think that's pretty normal, and it's fun. It's fun if someone's like, oh, yeah, what's your favorite Spielberg? And maybe your brain is, like, not working or something, and you're like, oh, yeah, it's this one.
Oh, that's funny. Your brain not working when it comes to movie things, and you need to look that up? Your favorite Spielberg movie?
Well, it is actually, that is a very hard question, and I have forgotten what I have ranked as my favorite, and I'm going to look it up right now, because he's got too many movies that are way too close to my heart for me to be like, oh, yeah, it's that one, right off the bat.
I wonder what mine is. Maybe E.T.
E.T. is amazing, but let's see. I'm almost there.
List is really good.
Yeah, that's not. I think that's in like my top 10.
Though.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this makes sense. Oh, I actually need to revisit this though.
This is unbearable.
Because I have Raiders of the Lost Ark as my favorite Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
And I still agree with that. But then my second, I have Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But it's got to be Jurassic Park after that.
Yeah. Are you even a Spielberg fan if you don't have Jurassic Park #1?
Yeah, Raiders. Have you seen Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones? That is like as good as it gets.
Here's a question.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite director?
Yeah, okay.
Is it Scorsese?
This year it has changed.
Wow, you heard it here first.
Because here was the deal. This is such a great question. I was, watched Christopher Nolan, and he was like the first, like, oh, he's the best, And then it was like...
I think everyone who gets into film when they're 18, like once you graduate high school and you think you know the world, and really that means you're just starting to watch more movies that you previously couldn't because your parents wouldn't allow you to. It's usually Christopher Nolan, I would say, for people of our age range.
Totally.
At the beginning. And then then you start watching more.
And I'm not one of those people... Like, Christopher Nolan directed my favorite movie, Interstellar. So
he's wonderful.
I'm not one of those people who's like...
No.
Oh, brother, you like Christopher Nolan that much?
But do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I get what you're saying.
He makes movies for movies.
Yeah, well, it's the same exact thing would be like people who are like, oh my gosh, have you seen Fight Club? And it's like, yeah, and it's amazing, and I love it. But, like, come on, we all saw Fight Club, like, in high school. Let's talk about some other movies.
Yeah.
It's sometimes how I feel.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can talk about Fight Club all day, but that's the number one rule. You're not supposed to talk about it, idiots. So what I want to say though is it was him, and then I flirted around with Alfred Hitchcock because as I was watching more of his, but there's just so much, and I've literally seen 21 of them, and I have 33 more Alfred Hitchcock movies to watch. But when I watch a Scorsese movie, there is something about it that is like transcendent beyond. Like, it kind of feels like when you listen to a great album, but you're also watching visuals.
Yeah.
And something like Goodfellas, which is probably my favorite Scorsese.
Might be my favorite one, too.
It is just like, could you come up with anything that is to dislike in that movie? It's just so perfect. And the movie that put me over the edge where I was like, yes, he's absolutely my favorite, is when I watched Mean Streets for the first time, a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was just like, who else could do this? And he also is perfect at doing like the quotes, like movies that don't necessarily have a strong story arc.
Yeah,
because like Mean Streets kind of like is a hangout movie in a lot of ways.
I mean, he makes movies about New York.
Yeah, and a
lot of them are like about New York.
I guess I love New York or something.
Apparently.
Who is your favorite?
Well, here's the thing. So yeah, he makes movies about New York, but I think he also makes movies about people.
Yeah.
Like it's character driven, not story driven.
Yeah.
And that's why I think sometimes some of his movies lack a little bit, like that Nicolas Cage one.
Yeah, bringing out the dead.
I don't think it. I think it's a little too character driven.
Mm-hmm.
Also Nicolas Cage, but yeah, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
But my favorite director, probably. I mean, that's for me is hard. The older I get, the harder it is to figure out who is my favorite. Because I would say, like, in the very top, you have Paul Thomas Anderson, who makes like the most
so
beautiful.
Close for me. I mean, come on.
Just makes some of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen, and he made my favorite movie, There'll Be Blood.
Yes.
And then Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to knock him off the list because he is one of the most consistent directors currently living. Yeah. It's like kind of insane.
Well, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was just like such a triumph of filmmaking, I thought. And it was so cool to see him do something that was, because his plots are always like so interesting and just so like boom, 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 boom. And to see him make a movie where it's like just people keep on turning on the radio and they're living in the 60s. And it was just like so unbelievable that I was like strapped to my seat like I would be in Kill Bill or something, like what is going to happen next. The movies,
and would argue stories are very character driven.
Oh yeah,
for the most part. But then also I think of most currently Bong Joon-ho.
Oh yeah, I mean
because of going through. I know I haven't seen all. I think I just have to see his first movie. For me, still for the most part, I gotta watch Memories of Murder. Like actually watch it.
Yeah,
so I watched like most of it.
Folks, if you like detective story, I think Memories of Murder is still just available on YouTube to watch. It's so unbelievably good. It's crazy how good it is.
One of his right-hand men sitting next to him at the Oscars beaming with joy for his friend Kang Ho Song, who is some might say the Leonardo DiCaprio of South Korea. I say Leonardo DiCaprio is the Kang Ho Song of America.
The funny thing about this conversation though is, you know, we are hitting like some pretty obvious directors, but I would argue they're obvious for a reason. Like these guys, as much as you want to, because I would also throw Steven Spielberg up there as like very close to my favorite. I mean, there's probably like 10 directors that it's like,
I know
when they make a movie that year, if they make a movie, you know, like last year, Quentin Tarantino comes out with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm like, oh, I guess he is my favorite. Yes. And then Irishman comes out, and I'm like, okay, it's Scorsese. And then I rewatch Inception, and I'm like, yeah, it's Christopher Nolan. So right now it's Scorsese. I gotta say, though, I think Greta could have a shot by the time she's got like 10 under her belt.
I know.
Because Lady Bird,
really
unbelievable. We all know how much I love Little Women, too.
When I think of her, I also think of the Safdie brothers.
Yeah, they got a shot too.
I mean, talking about making a movie about New York, them, they're the next Scorsese.
Yes, I love that take. I think that's great.
I feel like we're getting a little off track. I could talk about directors all day, and there's so many more I haven't named that I would like to, but we probably should talk about the movie that people came here for.
Well, we can talk about another director who we've now seen 3 of his movies. Yeah. His name is Wilson Yip. And he directed Ip Man 3. Talk about a transition. Although it's pretty easy to transition when you're talking about movies, to talk about more movies. This one, again, is written by Edmund Wong and Chan Tai Lee. We also have another writing credit with Jill Lung, who also did Ip Man 4. Once again, great score. Mm-hmm. Great score for this movie. Kenji Kawai, unbelievable. We love you, dude. You're kind of like getting on the composers to watch for Micah. You're crazy. That bow, 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 love that. Mm-hmm. Cinematography, we have Kenny TSE. I don't know. Looks like a bunch of martial arts movies: Unbeatable, Cold War, The Stool Pigeon. The movie comes out December 24th, 2015.
Christmas movie.
Yes. The budget of this movie is $26 million. Here in the U.S., it makes $2.6 million. Pretty good for a foreign martial arts movie.
It's kind of surprised they didn't get more with having... I mean, why did they cast Mike Tyson?
Well, but remember, the last movie made $200,000 here, so...
Oh, okay.
That's like a huge...
That's a big step up.
Yeah, that's $1 million more. Or $2.5 million more. And then worldwide, the movie makes 159.9. So
Great.
It's no wonder that they keep on making these.
Wait, what was the budget?
26.
Wow.
So as we know from last week, Donnie Yen, after finishing Ip Man 2, said, I'm good. I feel like we've told a nice couple of Ip Man stories. I don't want to do any more. Then they start talking about Ip Man 3. And he goes, well, when I go places, people don't say, hey, there's Donnie Yen. They say, there's Ip Man. And he's like, so I got to do it again. I respect that. Cool. Once again, if you'll remember last week, they wanted this movie to be about the relationship between Bruce Lee and Ip Man.
Yeah.
And there is a reason why they were not able to do that again. Robert Lee, his brother,
Bruce's
brother, was a consultant for the film and production of Ip Man 3, said that he owned the intellectual property rights, but Bruce Lee's estate claims no, he does not own his rights.
Huh?
And so
Family drama?
And here's where it gets weird. So that's kind of where that ends. So they're kind of in limbo. If you'll notice in the movie, they never say Bruce Lee when that character is on screen, who is Bruce Lee. So I think that
Which is what I said, and you didn't believe me.
Yes. No, I mean, I believe you. I just didn't remember him saying a name at all.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was.
Liar.
No. I'm probably not lying. No, I'm not lying to the best of my knowledge, okay?
Okay.
So that's why I'm assuming why they didn't use the name, because they could argue like, no, it actually wasn't, even though on IMDb it says Bruce Lee.
Uh-huh.
So then, but when they were working on the movie, when they were gonna have him be a bigger part of the story, you're gonna hate this, Jordan, so much. They were like, they couldn't find an actor that was like Bruce Lee.
Okay.
So as we talked about last week, again, we were talking with Amy Johnson, going like, I guess that Bruce Lee is like their George Washington or their Lincoln or something. Where in
Whoa, what? Presidential?
Well, I think in China, it's just the impression I get researching these movies is it's like Bruce Lee, and I don't know if I've seen a single Bruce Lee movie, which I'm gonna correct. I'm working on it. And so I don't know why he is like this revered kind of godlike status. So they were like, we can't find anybody who can encompass this guy's personality. I know. We're going to have a CGI Bruce Lee in this movie. Jordan's eyes got so wide.
2015. I don't think so.
No. Well, they still can't really. I mean, in 2016, Rogue One came out.
They can do it, but the guy barely moved. Mm-hmm. So it looked really good. And then also in Force Awakens.
It doesn't look so good as you rewatch it,
though. Oh, really? No. I remember in theaters, I couldn't tell. Because also, I didn't know that was a guy from a past movie.
I think
Don't
if you
get mad at me for
it's
saying
okay.
That. But
if you do know that, though, I think you watch the movie and you're like, oh, this is a little weird.
Probably.
A little scary.
But also, I feel like when you saw Princess Leia at the end of Force Awakens, right? No, Rogue One.
Yeah, same movie.
Wow. I thought she didn't look terrible.
No, but it was weird. It was weird. She had a very, very smooth face, and her lips didn't really move correctly.
Oh. So critical, just like all the rest.
Well, but no, that one I'm a little more like, especially like one line, and for it to tie direct. I mean, I that is maybe my favorite of the new movies, at least debatable. And I'm not gonna hold that against it. It's certainly interesting that they tried.
Okay.
But anyway, so they couldn't find anyone to portray him, and then the estate heard about the CG thing, and they were like, no.
Yeah.
Which, good call on the estate. I think maybe they've been a little crazy about the rest of the series, but good call on this.
Well, you know what's funny? So you're putting this in perspective of we're in 2015, and even in the last movie, the estate was just kind of like really, really difficult because it's so, I guess, so important how the image of Bruce Lee is. So kind of crazy.
Just every movie. Can we make it about Bruce Lee? No. Okay, let's make up this boxer thing.
That's just so crazy. And then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019, Bruce Lee's in the movie, and people go nuts.
They get so mad that Brad Pitt beat him up.
And it's like, did you not read the script? Like, if you care, I mean, I don't know. I have a feeling Quentin is really no one reads the script kind of guy.
Yeah.
But like, if you are so tight on like who gets to use Bruce Lee and not, like the estate.
Yeah.
Why did you okay that one?
I don't know. Maybe he just found some sort of loophole around it or something.
Maybe.
Although, I mean, it is Quentin Tarantino, a lot bigger budget than 26 million, so maybe they were able to put like a large portion into that.
That's true. That's very true.
When it came out, the estate was mad.
Oh, they were so
They were mad. And there were people that were like, he couldn't have beat him up and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, but at the spoiler,
like, have you seen a Quentin Tarantino movie before?
Yeah, also spoiler alert, he has a movie where they murder Hitler. I shouldn't say murder. I think that might be the wrong word. But they kill Hitler. They assassinate Hitler. That's the word. And they also, at the end of this movie, he kills the people that tragically murder the people up.
The Sharon Tate murders.
Yes, and it doesn't happen. So if Bruce Lee gets beat up in the movie, maybe it's not such a big idea. It's fiction.
Yeah.
When are people going to get that in their heads? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else. I don't think there's anything else to say other than maybe just don't let people ever use Bruce Lee's likeness.
I guess.
I think maybe you've learned your lesson.
There's also this very famous commercial that they covered in VFX Artists React where they had a CG Bruce Lee.
What was it for?
I think it was like for cologne or something like that in China. And I'm assuming that the estate had to sign off on that.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't want him to be in this cool Ip Man movie, but you're okay with him being in Cologne?
I don't get it. Obviously,
they're going to hear about this episode and come down hard on us, too.
It's become such a business at this point.
Yeah, how weird is it that you can be so famous that once you die, that you are now a business for people? Same with like Elvis, Michael Jackson, like the Beatles, like any of those guys, like all those people that are that famous. It's like, okay, now we have to like take care of their assets and film rights and movie rights. And
I mean, ever heard of Disneyland?
Thank you for listening. Okay, so Yoon Woo Ping did the choreography for this movie, and Donnie Yen also contributed a lot of choreography. One more little note until we get to. I'll do a little more, but I'll give you some time here. This is the first Mike Tyson movie where he does not play himself, movie or TV show. So this is like his first actual acting role, where he's not just Mike Tyson in a show or movie. So, hit me. What do you got?
Oops. No, I don't want to do him first. I want to do Mike Tyson first. So he is in Hangover, Part 1 and 2. He's also in Rocky Balboa. He's also
in Rocky Balboa? Oh, I think he's a yes. Yeah.
He's Mike Tyson in Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
Must be a cameo.
I think he's a sports announcer at the ring.
Oh, okay. He's also in Medea Family Funeral. And he's in a movie with this guy, China Salesman.
Who's wait, I can't see the guy. Steven Seagal?
Is that who that is?
Yeah.
Who did Vic Berger have? Okay.
It's Steven Seagal, yeah.
Okay.
They talked about it on Office Hours today,
I can
too.
I didn't know who I knew the name, but I couldn't think of the face.
He has kind of like, I mean, he was a martial arts guy, not known for his acting, but someone like comedian John Gabris loves him.
Okay.
Like action boy kind of thing. But he's gotten older. And he's gotten a little bit larger, and that's okay, but he's still doing martial arts movies.
Uh-huh.
I saw a clip from one, and it is like he barely moves while the other person's like doing all the moving, and he's like, poof, 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 and it's all in the edit, so it looks like he's doing stuff, but you can tell he's not really.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I have kind of a hard time. There are obviously a lot of new people in this movie, but who should we cover? I know the other guy we need to cover, but I mean, I'm just going to cover the other guy. So we have who plays Chung Tin-Chi as Johnny Depp. Oh, no, Xin Zhang plays the guy who battles Ip Man at the end of the movie.
Now, he rules. I thought he was great in the movie.
He is in the Pacific Rim sequel.
Cool.
He's in The Grandmaster, obviously.
That's not necessarily obvious.
Okay. Crouching. Well, I guess what I mean is obviously that's the spinoff.
No.
Okay.
Grandmaster is a different Ip Man series.
I'm done talking about it.
Yeah, no,
He's
I'm just
also
saying.
in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
He was a stunt double in that movie. That's how he got started.
Ah! Master Z, The Brink, Killzone 2, a lot of action and sci-fi.
Oh, okay. So that's all your dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many people in this movie.
I know. And some of them are kind of like they show up for a little bit and then they're just kind of gone. Like
Yeah.
his disciple, like
Whose disciple?
Ip Man's. Remember he like is interested in that girl
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
they never really talk
Resolve
about that
it.
again. Now, when we were watching the movie, you were like, "Where's his other son?" Because
Yeah, you figured it out.
Well, kind of. I think
Oh.
I'm gonna need your help figuring out what this trivia in IMDb means. But you in the previous movie, she had another son.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's like she's pregnant the whole movie, and that's like part of the thrust of the plot. And then in this movie, there's just one kid.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read this word for word on IMDb, and let's see if we can figure it out because
Okay.
I couldn't on first glance. In this film, Ip Man's second son, Ip Ching, is portrayed as being younger than in reality. Just like his first son, Ip Chun, was in the first and second films, Ip Ching appears to be around the age of 7 or 8 years old. In 1959, he was 23 years old, and Ip Chun, who didn't appear in the movie, was around 35 years old at
That
the
doesn't
time.
explain why their son wouldn't come back to his dying mother.
That was just so weird. I didn't get that. I really didn't understand that. And there was never like a, especially with their sons being like
There's no
consultants
throwaway.
on the movie. I don't know why they weren't like, hey, how come I wouldn't have been there? Maybe they
Oh.
didn't consult on this movie.
I forgot that they would be alive.
Yeah, they're still alive.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? I just didn't get that. And then in the last fight scene with Chung Tin Chi, Ip Man improvised and used a 3-inch punch, punching at full force with the knuckles at 3 inches away to defeat Chung. Bruce Lee, Ip Man's most famous disciple, was renowned for his 3-inch and 1-inch punch.
What does that mean?
So that's like the Kill Bill thing when she's in the coffin.
Oh,
And
cool.
I didn't know that was real. I thought that was made up.
Well,
So-
actually, when he punched that way, I was thinking more of the death punch in Kill Bill.
Oh, but remember when she's
But
in the
I know,
coffin and she does
I know that, but because it was to the guy's chest, it's like, oh, that guy better not take 7 steps.
Yeah.
His heart will explode. I guess it's a podcast about Quentin Tarantino today, folks.
Well, he's so highly influenced by martial arts, so it's not a
Please
long
make
walk.
another Kill Bill so we can cover it.
So it's very funny also. And then we can get into the plot of this, but this is one of those weird movies. You know, when I'm researching for these movies, I usually start with a Wikipedia page. And
You shouldn't say that.
No. I'm gonna say, and I double check certain things if they sound a little weird or whatnot, because I don't want to just like, you're coming here for truth, people.
You went to Cascade. You couldn't use Wikipedia.
Yeah, but I cite my sources. You know, occasionally if it's just like a normal fact, I'm not gonna double check all of that. But it's great for cast listing and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But occasionally there will be someone who has clearly edited the page and loves whatever they're talking about. And if you read the Ip Man 3, which if you are nerdy like me, I'm going to just venture to guess like Mike Combs, Sean Muir, and Nathan Scherer, I think you'd really enjoy reading this page. And I'm not using nerdy derogatorily.
Please get to it.
But they have this section called symbolism in the movie.
Okay.
And it's just written with such an air of like, this movie like must have
Ripped.
changed this person's life. So they go, symbolism of butterfly. The first scene where Ip Man was practicing the wooden dummy and a butterfly flew and stopped atop of it signifies a legend in Chinese mythology. A moth or butterfly is considered a returning spirit of a loved one.
I like that.
That is cool, though. I'm not saying these are bad, but then it's like, be like water. When Ip Man throws the water at Bruce Lee, it was a hint at Lee's famous quote, be like water. It teaches Lee to be adaptable and not to just try and kick the water, but the adaptability dodging and not being rash and stubborn. Lee later developed Jeet Kune Do, which focuses on adaptability. Cha-Cha Champion. This is the last one. Other than being known as an action star, Bruce Lee was national cha-cha champion in Hong Kong in 1958. In the film,
Dancing?
yeah. In the film, he taught Ip Man how to dance in exchange for learning Wing Chun from Ip. So these are actually very cool things. It's just funny how it was written to me. And there were also like 3 more that weren't really symbolism. Like the last 2 things I read, well, I guess the Be Like Water is sort of is symbolism, but the Cha-Cha Champion is not symbolism. That's just a fact about the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Why is Mike Tyson in this movie? Did you figure it out? How many more notes do you have?
I have none more.
Okay.
I have none more notes.
I thought you said you had information about Mike Tyson. Just the only information you had is this is the first movie where he's acting?
I think I was... Oh, I don't remember saying that. I just remember that I was excited to do the bombshell about the CGI Bruce Lee.
Oh, thought you had Mike Tyson.
Okay, so I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. I get it.
My number one question when we ended the movie was, why is Mike Tyson in this movie?
Here's the thing. I Googled that very question, and it's all just reports about, like, Mike Tyson to be in Ip Man 3. It's nothing about, like, why they cast him. So let's talk about that element of the movie.
No, that's just going to be a rabbit trail.
No, go for it, please.
No, it's just like a John Wick question. Because...
We can't bring it up and not say it now.
Well, like, because that's another very action-based movie, and he fights a lot of guys, and in some parts of the movies, he fights, like, one guy. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I'll use the third movie, for example, when he fights the one guy in the, like, mirror room. Well,
the mirror room's in the second movie.
Not the mirror room, but it's like an office and it's all like clear walls. So it's not a mirror, but it's all reflective.
Like the glass. I think it's all glass stuff. Yeah.
Who was that guy? Like I'm assuming that guy is like potentially a big deal. Whether it's
you mean the actor, not the character? Oh, okay.
Like I'm assuming because I don't know who it was, that maybe he's a big guy in the martial arts world. Or the stunt world. But obviously in the story, it didn't really matter who he was fighting. He was just fighting someone.
Sure.
And that was cool. To my memory.
Yeah.
So in this movie, Mike Tyson's in it.
Yeah.
And they just spend so much freaking time on it. On like panic, like cutting to him at certain parts of the movie. And I have no idea what he's doing. And finally when him and Ip Man fight, it's like... Okay, yeah, we all knew that this was coming. We all knew that.
Yeah.
But why couldn't it have just been another tiny roadblock? Why did it have to be such a big plot? This movie is 1 hour and 40 minutes, and it felt like it was 2.5 hours.
This one definitely felt the longest.
This is like such a bad story. It sucked. The story was bad.
Yes.
The movie should have been only about... Well, I don't know 100%, but it should have been heavily focused on his wife's illness. Because that was the big emotional moment of the movie, and I thought they did all of that really well.
Yeah, I want to wait, but I totally agree with you.
Okay, and then the other part should be about the Johnny Depp guy.
Yeah. Because
that was also very interesting. That he's the same fighting style as him, and is like... They spent so little time of him publicly going around and basically saying that he's better.
Yes.
And all that stuff. Like, that was so interesting, and it was like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, all the other stuff that happened in the first hour of the movie
was very odd.
What was it?
Well, so I was trying to like formulate like why is this movie so different from the others? And I think that Ip Man 2 kind of sets the precedent for this, because remember, Ip Man 2 is like pretty tight story about him like opening the school, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, and there's this boxer randomly.
It was
third act, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
like it should have just been about him and Samo. That would have been a better movie. But in this one, I think it kind of has almost like, to me, it felt like I was playing a video game.
Sure.
So it's like level 1, you have to like fight a couple of bad guys, and then like, you know, it's like you have to stop them from the school. That's like level 2. And then eventually your son gets kidnapped, and that's a big part. And then it's like, oh yeah, there's this random boxer you have to fight. And then it's like, but now you must fight for your honor. And that's like the end of the game.
Yeah. My issue with that is I don't want to watch a movie to watch a video game. I want to watch a movie. And I understand like maybe they were going something for a little outside the box storytelling wise.
Sure.
Didn't work.
Well, that's one of the hard parts about martial arts movies, and I would say like boxing movies too, is you have to figure out a way to not bore the audience, because you know you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this movie has Mike Tyson. When are Mike Tyson and Donnie Yen going to fight? And when it's not happening, you're like, okay, can't wait for that Donnie Yen Mike Tyson fight. And I think what the first movie did it so well because it had all that like symbolism of him representing China, and it became this honor thing. And it was it felt a little more autobiographical, whereas the other movies are relying a little more on like fantastical martial arts elements, which I'm not complaining about that part.
Yeah, me neither.
But I think that's the hard part about making an action movie. Really, the whole genre, it's keeping people invested in the characters and story.
Yeah.
Because all we want to do is just see that sweet, sweet blood and
they could have done better.
Sweet, sweet guts. Yes, I think they could have. But let's go into the
I will
specifics.
say, though, this movie looks very good.
Looks great. Yeah.
The colors were so vibrant and popping. And I would say some of the fight scenes were not as fun as the other movies to me.
Yes.
The camera was a lot tighter at a lot of fight scenes than the previous two, which I felt like relied on wider shots.
Yeah.
To really capture the action.
Yeah.
The last scene with the fight with Johnny Depp, like, that was all wide. They did have some tight, obviously, but like that looked the best.
Absolutely. Well, my favorite fight was the Thai Warrior.
That was cool.
That fight was kind of insane.
Why though? Why?
Well, okay. Let's
like make the whole, if you feel like you need to make a fourth movie, make it about the Thai fighter. The dude was cool enough to have his own movies to me.
Yeah.
Because literally it was Mike Tyson is coming to his right-hand man talking to some dude with long hair. And he's like, this Thai guy's crazy. And then Mike Tyson like pushes that guy away and says to the Thai fighter, go get Ip Man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
And then he fights Ip Man, loses, and then just saunters away. Never to be seen again.
Yes.
Why?
Okay. Let's start at the beginning though. Because maybe we can figure it out by the time we're there. It's 1959. We have the moth flying up while he's practicing on his Wing Chun dummy.
We get it.
And then Bruce Lee walks in and he's like, hey, remember me? I was a kid. And he does the little nose flick thing, which is just like kind of insane to me a little bit. It's just like, what is this guy doing in this movie? It's just so, so weird. And the nose flip thing, I know that Bruce Lee did that. I don't know if he ever did it in real life. I think that was like a movie thing he did. So
I have no idea that was even a thing until just this moment. Well, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was a thing that he did. I thought it was just I know that's him because of the last movie. I don't want to talk about it too much. So he challenges Ip Man because he wants him to be his master. Yeah. And then Ip Man's like, well, how fast are you? Really cool sequence with him flicking cigarettes at him.
Yeah, I loved all of that.
Very cool. And then throwing water at him. And then it ends there.
Yeah. And it's like, it doesn't really further Ip Man's story. It's just, it for some reason, Bruce Lee in this series feels very much like when we were first watching Marvel and didn't know where they were going. And it's like, who is this random character that they're dedicating 2 minutes to?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I have to wait 8 movies to figure out who it was.
Remember those times? And watch like a movie ending in theaters, a Marvel movie, and you just being like, well, this is how I felt. Yeah, I don't care.
See, I was into it for a long time, and then I got out of it.
Yeah,
because there was that time where it's like, you're telling me Captain America's gonna be in a movie on his own.
I remember specifically at the end of, was it the end of Captain America? The post credit scene is him in modern day Times Square. And
that's just in the normal movie.
Oh, okay, but Nick Fury comes up to him and is pretty much like, I'm gonna get you into the Avengers. But I just remember, like, everyone knows what that means. Him showing up there, and I'm just like, cool. We have to wait a whole year to see that actualized. That's how I felt.
Yeah, I think that was the one movie that ended with a trailer for Avengers. Remember, that was the post-credit scene.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, shows Bruce Lee. Then we see Chung's son, who is the rival Wing Chun
Johnny
master. Yeah.
And I'm saying Johnny Depp, people, because he has such a Johnny
styled
Depp
like him.
vibe. His hair, and he's wearing a scarf.
What more do you need?
Yeah. I think I've seen an exact outfit of that in like a People magazine.
Well, I'm going to keep calling him Chung because that's his character's name.
Sure.
and Chung's kid and Ip Man's kid are fighting. So Ip Man and his wife go to the school, and they're like, well, we'll have the kid over for dinner, and we're going to kind of figure it out. I like this because you're still seeing that Ip Man is very much, he pursues the path of humbleness
and purity
and peace. Yeah, and purity. And then when they do that, but they show, it cuts to Mike Tyson's gym. And there's like people fighting, and there's very weird like surfer music playing.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was like dun, 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 dun.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, this is odd and very weird. And then, you know, Mike Tyson's like, we need to get that school. And because this
prime real estate
it's
is what
prime
they
real
said.
estate.
I will say, I feel like Mike Tyson did a better job acting when he spoke Cantonese, or I don't know, it's probably whatever it was. Yeah.
Well, okay. I think his performance is pretty good in this. Like, I
think
was prepared to laugh every time he was on screen, and I was like, I get it. I buy it. He's doing a good job.
Well, I don't buy it, but yeah.
Well, story-wise, I don't buy it. But I mean, like, I feel like performance-wise, he was like doing the same thing that any of the other like not Donnie Yen characters were doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I was surprised because I was like ready to get on the pod and just tear him apart. But then I remembered that he bit Evander Holyfield's ear off, and I thought I probably shouldn't talk bad about Mike Tyson. Okay.
Sure.
So we now see that Wing Chun is finally like accepted everywhere, and people like really respect it. So that's a cool thread of it. And then Chung wants to have a friendly match with Ip Man. And
you can see Chung is a very proud person. And I think part of that is because he is a single dad whose job is being a rickshaw driver, because that's all he can do. Mm-hmm. And later on, you see in the movie, he really wants to be a Wing Chun master. Yeah. That's his goal in life. But I think that like, because of his status, he is this is how it kind of seems like he's a proud person. Sure. Because it's like, I'm not a rickshaw driver. I am a Wing Chun master. Mm-hmm. Which I find really interesting, good character contrast to Ip Man, who is also a Wing Chun master. Yeah. So you have pride against humility, I guess. Sure. I also think, though, that he does a pretty like nuanced pride. Yeah. I think I don't mean pride necessarily in a bad way. It does go too far. Mm-hmm. But I say he knows his worth. He has confidence.
Because it's not like the guy in the first movie who comes to the town and is like, where's your best people? He's like, bad dude. Yeah. This guy's like, okay. Like, when we were watching the movie, I didn't know who stars in the spinoff, and I was like, I hope it's about this guy because he's cool. Yeah, he was cool. And then luckily we looked, and that is what Master Z, Legacy of Ip Man, is about. So excited to see that. So the kids make up their children, and they're kind of like friends now, and he challenges to him a match. I think he's just like, nah, I can't really do it. Yeah. Or something like that. And you see that there's like some tension in their marriage again, which kind of seems like some trodden ground in this series already. But I'll give it back to him because with the payoff of the sickness and all that, I felt like, okay, they did kind of need to establish that again. Yes. Okay.
Also, you and I have been watching this very closely, all these movies. Yes. It hasn't been years.
Yes. And that's always going to affect things. Yeah. I think that's part of the fun of it. And I hope that you're watching along too, because these are all available on Netflix. Netflix. It's a streaming service about necks, specifically turkey necks. Okay. So then we have this guy in a red, like, thriller jacket show up in glasses at the school. And he's like, we need this school because of Mike Tyson said so.
Yeah, I'm going to intimidate you by breaking your hand.
And he just starts like throwing down the principal of the school that the kids go to. And then Ip Man comes in and they have a quick little fight. And I was kind of like a little shocked at how this scene looked. Because of course, I'm not a martial artist and I'm not a stuntman, but it felt like really, really, really unrehearsed to me.
Oh, okay.
because there were points where they're like getting ready to throw a punch, and then they throw the punch, and then it's like reaction, stop, reaction, beat. And it didn't feel like the flow that we've established in the other two, where it's like Ip Man is flowy. He's like water. He's just going, and he sees things before they happen. This was like, there's my mark, there's my mark, there's my mark. And it felt a lot slower.
Maybe the guys in this scene were a little bit inexperienced.
That could totally be.
Or and slash, they spent more time on the other parts, the other fights.
Yeah.
Because it's very short.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it might have just been like, let's just get this done.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of shocking as like one of the first like fights of the movie for it to be this lanky felt very weird to me. And then he's watching the school. Okay, so now what?
Oh, I just was waiting to see if you could figure out what you wrote.
Oh yeah, no, I take great notes. I take the best. They're the best.
So yeah, him and his disciples are guarding the school because the school is threatened of thugs coming to take it over. And at this point, you might ask yourself, "This is a school. I think it's a public school. Does Hong Kong system not does the government not get involved with this with education and like in any type of way?"
But then we find out, Jordan, in a very weird explanation, the police chief, who's the guy who's been in all of them, right?
I don't know if he was in the first one.
Okay, well, he's in the second one, and he's a cute old man. I like him.
They call him Fatty, and in the last movie they call him Fatso.
Yeah,
a lot.
And so Fatty's like, I work at the police station. Let me go talk to the head up guy from Britland, and he walks up to the British guy.
Because it's still a territory of England, yeah.
And he walks up to the British guy, and he's like, "Hey, so we need to take care of the school." And the guy's like, "I'm British, and I say no." And you're kind of like, "Huh, that's okay. I guess
that's a new one."
That's the explanation. And I think again, you do have to. This movie is supposed to be about martial arts, but I think again with the first movie they established that they did kind of care about some of those details. So it's kind of jarring to watch this movie and see that they like just don't really care about like some of these pretty simple explanations, I think. So regarding the school, is that when there's yes, so then there's the big fight at the school where it's nighttime.
Yeah.
And they all come in and they fight. And I wrote down that it felt like in this movie the fighting took on a more, quote, realistic approach where they wanted to do more of the like modern. They're still doing cool shots and they're not doing the like Taken Jason Bourne like cut everything up, but it felt much more, like they're cutting out little frames so that the punches are hitting harder and it's faster. Well, it's not faster, but it's much more like it didn't feel smooth like the other two movies.
No.
And this fight too, it was like, oh, this is weird that I'm seeing how it could be improved.
Something they did too in this movie, more so in the fight coming up with all of those guys, like on the construction crew or something.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
When they're building Noah's Ark, yeah.
Yeah. What I don't I feel like in this movie they really doubled down on the amount of thugs in the movie about bad guys.
Yeah.
And I know in this fight, Ip Man had help from his disciples, but it was also like, why are there so many men? Why are there so many people in this fight? In this movie, it gets unrealistic.
Yeah.
The amount of people, especially in that next fight, it's like all you guys have to do is tackle him.
Well, and I have not seen West Side Story, but I felt like this movie had a very West Side Story vibe where it felt like the crooks were like coming out of the corners and they're like, bum, 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 and they were like about to break into song or beat up the guy. Like, because they'd be like, boys, and then it's like they drop everything they do. Yeah, the Michael Jackson Thriller guy.
Yeah.
So it's that part's weird. Then we have Chang wants to rent someplace for school. Chung wants to rent someplace for school, but he can't afford it, being the rickshaw driver. And then Master Tin, who we have not talked about, but he is the master of Michael Jackson. And he rebukes him, and he like slaps him in the face. Oh wait, is this before or after the Noah's Ark scene? This is before.
This is before. This is
Yeah.
like, this is, oh yeah, no, it's before. Yeah.
Yeah. So he slaps him. And, that's, of course, your master slapping you. That's a big deal. And then it kind of turns into a fight. And then the police chief guy,
Fatty.
Fatty, yeah, comes out and pulls a gun. And then they de-escalate the situation.
Yes.
Might be the only time in history that pulling a gun de-escalated the situation.
Wow. Yeah. So you see in the next scene as police chief Fatty is, I don't like saying that. That's what they call him.
It is.
It's like his nickname.
I think you're okay to call him that.
Pretty much he's explaining that it's not that simple. It's stopping the bad guys is not as simple as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Donnie Yen has a really good moment of talking about the ideals and the respect and the morality of man.
I wrote it down because I thought it was very cool too. I'm glad we both thought that.
Really, and it's what's good about it is he didn't get emotional. His acting didn't get emotional. He stayed straight and true.
Yes.
And it feels like a true master.
Yes. He said the world doesn't belong to the rich or the powerful, but to the pure of heart. Pretty cool. Love that. And then we find out that Ip Man's wife has cancer.
Yes.
She hasn't told Ip Man yet, and Ip Man's missing out on life and all of that stuff. So then Michael Jackson is like, okay, I know this is a convoluted plot, but we're going to figure this out, folks.
Yeah,
Michael Jackson goes up to Chung, and he goes...
Michael Jackson goes up to Johnny Depp.
And he goes, I need you to attack my master who works at the umbrella shop. And I'm not really sure why he did this, but so then Chung's like, okay.
No, because Chung has been fighting in those backdoor dealing fights.
Oh, in Mike Tyson's arena.
Yeah, and he's paying him a fat stack of cash for beating up this guy.
But still, I don't know why Michael Jackson doesn't want to just fight him. That's what I don't understand.
I guess he would know as soon as he walked through that door.
Yeah. Well,
I think he knows that Chung would do it. Maybe he knows that Chung just needs some money.
Yeah. So Chung goes in and he fights him. And then when he's at it sends...
That's a cool scene with all the umbrellas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is. Shut up. So then, folks, I was joking. We were joking around. We have a lot of fun over here in the apartment.
I think we're losing our minds in the heat.
Yeah, it's getting hot because we have to turn off the fridge and all of our fans.
Let's wrap it up.
No, we got plenty of time to go.
Oh.
No, come on, please. We gotta
hot.
give him the best that we can give him.
I know.
Come on.
Makes me so sleepy.
Oh, brother, you're always sleepy. You're like Winnie the Pooh. You just want honey and to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sends the Umbrella Man to the hospital. And then they get Ip Man to go to the hospital. And while they do that, they attack the school and they kidnap his and Chung's son. And when they do that, they're like, okay, you gotta come to this place where we're building Noah's Ark. And we're gonna fight you. And so he comes there. This scene, pretty decent, pretty cool action, especially when they get into the Ark.
Yes and no. There are hundreds of men.
Yeah.
It's insane. But yeah, when they're in the skeleton of the boat, fighting, very cool scene.
Very, very cool.
The guy with but remember the part when he's saying either do this or we're selling the children into slavery, and it's oh, what?
Yeah. And so this fight's happening. There is a lot of if you're watching the background, the actors just standing there waiting to go.
Yeah.
Which I think is you're pretty gonna be hard pressed to find a scene where there's not a group.
Over 100 men. What else are you supposed to do?
But then they get into this warehouse kind of thing, and he's protecting his son, and he has these two poles, and all the fighting in that was really cool. And it starts getting a little bit more into the fantastical realm where he can kind of defy physics a little bit, which I like more.
Yeah.
So they're doing all that, and then he apologizes to his wife and says it's his fault. It's his fault. It's not your fault, Ip Man. You're okay. It's not your fault. You protected your son. That's good. And then his wife is I have cancer. And so he's I got to protect you. And then Mike Tyson sends this Thai master to go attack him. And this is when the movie really clicks in for Micah. From here on out,
It took an hour.
From here on out, I'm like, this part of the movie I'm into. Because this Thai fight is freaking cool. He goes into an elevator. Ip Man is with his wife.
Incredibly shot.
It's so incredibly shot. There is this shot where they're fighting and the camera is above them and it like follows them down the stairs in one shot. And it's like 6 or 7 seconds long.
Very
and I was
cool.
like, I kind of was like, are they about to pull like an old boy and just have him fight for like 2 minutes, like unbroken?
Oh, no, I'll save it for later.
Okay. But it's cool because it has that great tension where they're going down the elevator and he just pushes his wife behind him because he sees the guy take off his shoes and he starts attacking. And the whole time he's just preventing the Thai guy from hitting his wife. Mm-hmm. And then there's this amazing shot that kind of exemplifies their relationship. And I love this, where it shows his wife in the elevator and she looks out and she sees Ip Man like getting into his position to fight the Thai guy. And the elevator starts going down and the camera goes down with her and you see Ip Man. And it's like you see the gates close and it's like there's a barrier between them. Mm-hmm. And I love that. So they fight and all that stuff. And then he, of course, beats him.
Tells him to run along, kid.
Yeah. But it's cool because the Thai guy uses like, it's a lot of like leg fighting. Uh-huh. And there's like very powerful legs in the fighting. So you're seeing a whole new style that was really cool to see. And then that's when you were like, I'm really tired. We have to go to bed.
Yeah.
And so we did. And then we finished the movie today. So now, do you want to interject? Or should I just keep plugging?
What happens next?
Well, this is when he goes to Tyson. And he's like, we got to fight. Because you can't keep doing this. And so Tyson says, 3 minutes. And we can fight. Like... If you last 3 minutes
of fighting.
If you last 3 minutes, I'm not going to terrorize the school anymore. So they fight.
And it's like, okay, well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I've been talking so much.
For 3 minutes. Ip Man remains standing.
Yeah.
And and then pretty much Tyson keeps his word. And you're like, really? We went through an hour of this movie and this is all he had to do was go and fight him for 3 minutes. Okay. Fine, whatever. Let's go through the good part of the movie, the emotional part with his wife.
Yeah, it was just very weird because I thought when he went into the fight that he would lose to Tyson and then he'd be like, okay, I got to fight you one more time.
Yeah.
But then he just beats him and then Tyson is not seen in the rest of the movie.
No.
And it was...
And before that, Tyson has maybe had collectively 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, maybe.
This fight was very cool.
It was
really
good.
well done. I think they did a better because he's a boxer.
Yeah.
Last movie they also had a boxer. I think in this movie I liked a little bit more that they showed like when Tyson got a hit in, it kind of propelled Ip Man backwards.
Yeah.
Because it was with such force. I liked that.
I never bought in Ip Man 2 that he would get even close to losing to that boxer. But Tyson is so big.
Uh-huh.
And it's also like he does carry he's Mike Tyson. He's a monster. And so it's like he carries that persona. He's not like a goofy guy like the previous actor was in that movie.
Yeah,
so so you're like, oh, okay. It felt like it was a more level playing field. But I do like that he beat him because I think it would have been kind of annoying if he lost. There was a hilarious point in this fight. He punches the window.
Uh-huh.
And then Donnie Yen is backing up and he keeps punching all the windows out. And I was like, what are you doing, buddy? That's weird. But, whatever. So then Tyson is just like, okay, cool. And that's it. That's like the entire movie has built to this. And then it's like, all right, we resolve that.
Go deal with your wife, man. She really needs you right now.
And then this is where I think the movie hits its stride, finally.
You get to this part and you're like, oh, this is what the movie should have been about.
Yeah, but they were probably too busy trying to figure out how they were going to integrate CGI Bruce Lee that then they were like, oh, Mike Tyson wants to be in it? He wants how about a school? He steals a school. So talk about the wife and him. Because I thought this was actually very touching.
Yeah, so he dedicates, as long as he dedicates his life to his wife, which in the last two movies you see that is something that has clearly been the biggest struggle of their marriage, is him not giving enough of himself to her. And I could see people being like, she's whiny, but also like, I don't know, have you been married to a Grand Master of Wing Chun who everyone wants to fight all the time?
Only once.
I think in some ways...
No, I haven't.
It's a lot of comic books write about these storylines with superheroes and their significant others.
Yeah.
And why superheroes won't get into certain relationships because of these reasons.
Yeah.
So because of her illness, he devotes himself to her. He takes care of her. They rekindle their relationship. They go on dates again.
Yeah.
They sit in bed reading jokes out of a joke book together.
Which was very cute. I feel like Donnie Yen's acting in this whole sequence is like phenomenal.
Really good.
Really good.
They even go dancing together.
Yeah, because he missed out on the dancing earlier.
And that
was
was like, for me, the most like, oh, that is so sweet.
Yeah, and then Bruce Lee teaches him how to dance.
Right. And then she gets really, really sick. So sick to the point where she's in the hospital, and he brings her soup. He feeds her. And then she tells him that she really wants a picture of them together. So they get pictures of the family. One son is in the picture for some reason. Yeah. And then pictures of him and her. And it's just so sweet. Truly. And sad.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of a montage. So it culminates to them spending an afternoon together at home. She looks very sick. She's talking about how, I don't know if she said it was like an ancient proverb, but the saying of, I forget the exact saying, but she says something like, the world is yours, but it's not. Or you are yourself, but you're not. Basically, it was a positive and a negative. Like, it was a contradictory statement, but what it meant was, what she says is, you are for yourself, you are for your family, and you are for where you are. Mm-hmm. Very beautiful concept, to which she gets to the point of, she looks at his, what's it called? Post?
His Wing Chun dummy.
His Wing Chun dummy. And that leads her to saying, I miss listening to you practice. And it's been a really long time since you've practiced. Because that's not even been a passing thought in his brain of practicing. Yeah. So she asks that he practice, and she listens to him practice. Meanwhile, as this is all going on.
I want to talk about that, though, because I just think Donnie Yen, the way that he acts in the scene where she tells him to practice, he hasn't been practicing for a long time. He starts practicing, and he's very slow. And this is, like, to me, say I'm in the movie, I'm Donnie Yen, my initial reaction is like, okay, I'm going to practice for a little bit, and then I'm going to start crying, and I'm going to start hitting it harder and harder and harder.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, make this my, like, Oscar moment.
Yeah.
And I think it just speaks to how good of an actor he is and how good the directing is, that, like, he starts practicing very slowly. He gets a little, just barely more aggressive. And there's barely a little bit more anger, but he's still keeping it under. And it feels much more like that is how you would react in real life. Mm-hmm. In the made up life, you would have that huge reaction where you're like ripping your clothes and breaking the Wing Chun dummy. But he's not doing that.
And a big thing, which I think that why the acting is so good. So, like I said, meanwhile, what's going on? Johnny Depp has been challenging other kung fu masters. Basically, he's at the top now. He is the Wing Chun Grandmaster. However,
and it's cool that they're montaging back and forth with a beautiful song.
Yes, really good. And Johnny Depp is having a reporter follow him around to basically document that he is the best, which is interesting because Ip Man didn't get to where he was because he had reporters following him around.
No, word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Humble, humility, respect, just doing what he's doing and keeping his head down. This guy's like keeping his head up and doing all the things to make sure that people know who he is and that he's better than Ip Man. Mm-hmm. And he even says that Ip Man doesn't hold the ideals of Wing Chun anymore, which couldn't be further from the truth. And I think it's really in that scene with him practicing, it's proof that he's continuing to hold the ideals of like self-discipline, respect, purity.
Absolutely.
So, it's just so good. So then The Johnny Depp challenges him to a fight. All the press is there. All of the kung fu schools are there, and he doesn't show up because he's with his wife.
Yeah, which is great.
Love that.
That's really
so
great.
much. So then, pretty much, getting to the scene where they do fight. His wife does say like, that moment she asked him like, if I wasn't sick, would you have fought him? And he said yes. And she said, okay, well, I set up the fight anyway.
Yeah. So it's like the other guy's the Grandmaster now. He has a school of his own. He's got this like palace looking place now.
Nice.
So like a lot of time has passed.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ip Man shows up at his place. And what's kind of cool about this fight though is there's definitely a lot of emotion because Donnie Yen's carrying around like the weight of his wife about to die, and she's in the other room just not watching the fight.
Just listening. And the other guy's like fighting for his honor and stuff. But it is cool that they don't have like any animosity between each other. They're just going to fight. Mm-hmm.
And so they begin with 2 long poles. And they start fighting. They break the poles.
Yeah.
Throw them to the
They're
side.
fighting with such force that they're like damaging
Like concrete.
property.
Yeah. And then they whip out these short swords. And they're fighting.
Round 2.
This was pretty cool. That whole sequence where they are like locked and they keep on switching positions.
Oh, that was so cool.
Was like kind of a little like, wait, huh? What? I couldn't figure out what was happening in a good way. And then finally, Donnie Yen's able to get the swords away. And now it is to the fists.
Round 3.
And the feet. And they begin fighting. Boom, 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 boom. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. And then pretty quickly, though, once they get to the fists and feet, Ip Man does the 3-finger punch and just like launches him back. And he's defeated him and reclaimed being the Grandmaster. And the other guy takes one of his poles and smashes his sign that says he's the Grandmaster.
Mm.
Breaks it. So he has a lot of respect, which is cool. I feel like that puts him in a really cool spot for the next movie.
Yeah.
That character.
Yeah.
And the next movie's got Bautista in it, so that's going to be cool.
Number 4.
No.
His
spin-off movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that covers it. When we were watching it though, it ends and it's like in 1960 his wife died and Ip Man went on to disciple many people. And I was like, oh, they're going to say something about Bruce Lee. I guarantee it. And it didn't this time, which I was surprised about.
Well, we don't know. Some of the subtitles at the end flash so quickly.
They really
I've
did.
never seen them flash so quickly.
It was literally like...
Yeah. But it
Whoa,
was like, clearly I didn't need to know what that was.
But I didn't see Bruce Lee, So that is Ip Man 3. We got 2 more to go. What? How? What? What do you mean? There's the spinoff and there's Ip Man 4.
It can only get worse from here.
But
Why do they keep making more?
You never know. Okay, here's case in point. Let's think about Rocky. You got 1 and 2, great. 3, arguable. 4, pretty bad but fun. 5, horrible. Then you got Rocky Balboa, and it's like, okay. And then you get Creed. And Creed is like, oh, this is arguably as good as Rocky 1 and 2.
I haven't seen it.
I'm just saying that these types of movies can have, maybe Ip Man 4 will be the nice bow on the series that kind of covers it.
Yeah, but how long did Creed come out after Rocky Balboa? A while.
A while, yes.
Sometimes I think you need the time to really sit on it and think about it.
Well, and we all know Ryan Coogler's pretty much a genius. Like, he's fantastic.
These movies, though, it kind of seems like they're just churning them out.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the last one was like 2012. Like, it's been a couple years.
Yeah, it's only been like 3 years, though.
But yeah, so it's not even been that long.
Yeah. But the thing is, I still liked this movie.
I thought, like I said, I think this one looked the best. But the story was just like, I don't know, scratching my head.
The story was bad, I thought. But I think...
Which I know we've talked about, we've probably beaten it to death. When you go to watch a martial arts movie, you're not really going because of the story. I totally get that. But because you have to have a story, it's just, for me, a movie viewer, I just will lose my interest so quickly within those 5 minutes between fights where you're trying to piece a story together.
Sure. So But I do agree. I think visually, color wise, this movie looks better. Color and lighting, because the other movies have felt very washed out to me.
I felt the same way. Yeah.
But I do think that the choreography is better in the first two.
I agree.
And I think they look better in terms of like the shot selection.
Yeah.
But the coloring is kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
So we watched a Jackie Chan classic last week, Wheels on Meals.
Hilarious movie.
Great. Did you like that better or worse?
Better.
Better. Okay.
Not because of the action. I felt like there was not enough. I think my expectations were too high for it in terms of action. Because I know by the end of the movie, it was like all action.
Yeah, there are some insane stuff. There's a scene where Jackie Chan kicks a guy off of a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And that was in the first 20 minutes. And I was like, what are we getting
But I
ourselves
will
into?
say, because the story is also so bad,
yeah,
it was so funny. It was so funny because it was like these two guys who own a food truck, and one of them gets smitten with this girl. Turns out she's a hooker, and it turns out all these men are after her because she steals from them. And then she's actually like an heiress to a duke. What?
Yeah.
Also, it takes place in Spain.
Yeah.
It's just like so insane. And Sammo Hung is in it, and he is so funny. There is guys.
Yeah.
There is a scene where Jackie Chan, his cousin Sammo Hung, meet in a club, and this is the 80s. So just imagine the outfits for one. They're meeting in a club to talk about, because Sammo Hung's a private investigator.
Also, before you say it, this movie, it was on Prime, and there was no option to watch it in the original language. We could only watch it in English. So it's all overdubbed.
Yeah,
like,
so it's just
very
terrible.
white people like back in the 80s who are like, hello, how are you doing today? My name is Gerald.
But I loved it. It was pretty funny.
it made it
funnier. But they're all meeting because they're trying to figure out all the situation they're in, and it's really intense. But they're in an 80s Spanish dance club.
Yeah.
And at one point, I don't know if it was Jackie or his cousin, but they were like, let's go dance for no reason. So that the scene is like 2 minutes. It's not even over yet.
Yeah.
And they're just dancing. Imagine 80s dancing too, with 80s music. Oh my gosh, I could watch that scene over and over again.
And it was also great because they did that great bit that's always funny in a comedy where the Sammo is like, he's like, these Spaniards just suck. They're all so mean and I don't like them. And they're like, what'd you say? And then one of the guy pulls the speaker so that everything goes quiet. And then he says it again and everyone in the club hears him.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I felt like I thought that movie was amazing and I loved it, but also I felt like the story was bad.
But
so I was just comparing.
The story was bad, but it was already a comedy to begin with. So
and it was a little more charming, I thought.
It's more fun. Yeah, this is a movie taking itself seriously with some comedy in it.
Yeah.
But I think because the story's lacking, all of that stuff is just kind of like whatever to me.
Yeah. It Wheels on Meals totally made sense why Amy suggested, like, put that as like, no, this is a movie you should definitely watch.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you're wondering, folks, in our last episode, Amy Johnston recommended like 5 martial arts movies to watch. She, after the episode, gave me a list of 15, or is 14 or 15, and I did put those on my letterbox in a list. They're not ranked, but it's a list.
Not yet.
So if you want to go to Meltar Man, that's my name, on Letterboxd, you can look at that list. There's a bunch of movies if you want to watch more martial arts movies. But all this to say, I liked Ip Man 3. I mean, if your movie is going to have a poor story, at least make it this cool.
Yeah.
That's like the rule for me on martial arts, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Next week, we're doing Master Z, The Legacy of Ip Man. The spin-off movie.
It's the spin-off, and is it because it comes out before the 4th movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this one has Dave Bautista in it?
It has Dave Bautista in it.
Well, that's something to look forward to.
I know. I kind of hope he's a good guy. And it also looks like there is
I don't know, he's a foreigner. They call, and this franchise, they call British people the foreign devil. So
that's true.
He's probably not a good guy.
But it also looks like, in just a still image, it looks like there's like a pretty badass girl doing some fighting too.
Finally,
So
I was hoping in this movie with the one teacher at the school, the young girl who the guy asked out on a date.
yeah.
At one point when he's like, "You're strong," and I'm like, "Oh, is she like gonna fight later? Is this a reveal?"
Yeah.
No, she was just weak and frail. Whatever.
Well, if you've enjoyed this, we encourage you to go to www.patreon.com/MicahMcCaw. Sign up for MPU the sequel. It's as little as $3 a month. And this month we're doing Incredibles 2. It was a really funny episode. My sister texted us and said, this episode is so weird and funny. And I think if you like the weird and funny, you got to go over there.
Yeah.
It's $3. I mean, come on. I know there's more of you, so come on. And also, there's music over there too. There's art. There's so much cool stuff on the Patreon. So please check it out. Next week, Master C, let's do it. And then, folks, get ready to be scared. We're getting close to our Halloween series. Rebecca, you probably won't be able to watch it. And that's okay, because you don't have to watch it.
I hope
but
you should still listen, though, Rebecca.
Yeah, you should listen. But if not, we understand. But we're getting spooky for 4 weeks. So that'll be fun. See you later.
Bye.